Hey, Two Picklers, Tony here, coming to you from Tampa, Florida today. I've gotten a lot of requests regarding unforced errors and how to reduce unforced errors in your game. Obviously, that's a critical component of becoming a better pickleball player. Pickleball is one of those sports that unforced errors, or where unforced errors actually contribute a great amount to either winning or losing a match. So in today's video, we're going to talk some about areas that you can focus in your game to reduce the unforced errors in your game and improve your results. Let's get into it. When you think about unforced errors, there's a couple of different areas, major areas that you can focus on. One area you can focus on are mechanical errors, things like just keeping your eye on the ball. So as you're making contact with the ball, making sure you're watching the ball into your paddle and not hitting the ball on the edge of the paddle or missing the ball completely sometimes. So things like that. You can also have your body position so that you're squared off properly, you've moved into position to hit the ball. Things like that will greatly reduce unforced errors. What I want to focus on today are more strategic or conceptual errors, things that people do during games repeatedly that create or increase the risk of unforced errors. And if you understand these concepts and can apply some of the concepts we're going to talk about today, you reduce your unforced errors in play. Most of us, when we play pickleball, are playing doubles. So when we come out on the court, it's us and our partner against two opponents. So usually across the net from us, we'll be facing two opponents. So it's fair to say that it's us against two other players. The reality is that when you step out on the pickleball court, you have up to 5 opponents facing you at any given time. You have both players on the other side, so that's 2 opponents. You have the out-of-bounds lines on the other side. That's another opponent that you have to deal with. You have the net, that's a 4th opponent. And then you have potentially yourself as a 5th opponent. I don't want to talk about ourselves as players today. That's a video for another time. What I do want to focus on are the 2 other opponents that sometimes we forget about on the other side of the net or at the net. Let's talk first about the out of bounds on the other side. So when I'm playing, if I hit anything in the green in this case, it's out and I lose the point. So the lines end up being essentially opponents of mine that I have to deal with when I construct the point. So if I hit the ball deep or hit the ball wide to the left or wide to the right, it's an error by me and a point or a service to the other side. What can I do strategically to deal with the lines on the other side? How can I reduce the impact that those lines have on my play and in my results? It's harder to deal with the far line, with the out of bounds at the far end, because that covers the entire court. So that line I have to deal with. And if I'm trying to hit deep serves and deep returns, which are good strategically, sometimes I will run afoul of that far line. But I can take out the sidelines. In other words, I can reduce the impact of the sidelines in my game. And what that involves is playing a lot towards the middle. In other words, instead of trying to attack the sides, attack more in the middle during your strokes, thereby taking out at least the left and the right sideline from play, or minimizing their impact on play. Another thing I can do is when I'm dinking cross court, say I'm standing on this side here and I'm dinking across the court that way, is rather than aiming towards that line, is aim maybe 2 feet or 3 feet inside of the line, give myself some cushion so that in case if I miss my spot, so I hit over the 2-foot mark that I have, I still have that cushion that I can play with without hitting the ball out of bounds. So let's say I've just served and the returning team has returned short and I want to drive the ball. I can drive the ball several places. I can drive the ball down the line, I can drive the ball cross court, I can drive the ball at a player, or I can drive the ball down the middle. The safest shot of all of those is the down the middle shot. The down the middle shot takes out the sidelines from play and also creates the potential for a confusion or miscommunication by my opponents not knowing who's going to take that ball. So the middle shot there is the optimal shot because it reduces the chance for me to make an unforced error by hitting the ball out of bounds.
Let's take a quick look at an example of a drive during a recent tournament.
So as you develop your strategy for how you're going to approach the game, where you're going to attack your opponents, just bear in mind that the closer you are to the sidelines or the far out of bound line, the higher the chances are that you might commit an unforced error. The lines are also your opponent during the serve. In this case, though, the middle line now becomes the far sideline, either left or right, depending on which side you're serving to. But that line now is also an opponent of yours. So the more that you can serve towards the middle of the box, the better. Depth is still important because you want to push the team back. Sides become less important, though, on a serve. So further back is better. Sides, not as important. If you're hitting the ball out of bounds to the sides, one way or the other, that's an area that you should be able to work on and try and take out of your game by focusing on the middle of the court. One thing you can do is you can set up some cones. It doesn't have to be cones. It can be a shirt, anything in the middle of the court. Give yourself a target and practice your serves towards the middle of the court, approximately 3 or 4 feet from the baseline. That's good enough depth to keep the team back. Gives you a little bit of cushion on the depth. You don't need to be anywhere near the sidelines on your serve. So just practice that serve right in the middle of the box, about 3 or 4 feet from the baseline. That'll reduce your unforced errors on your serve. On the return of serve, your target would be the middle line, approximately 3 or 4 feet from the baseline. So again, it's similar to the serve in terms of depth, meaning you want to be 3 or 4 feet from the baseline in order to keep the other team back as far as you can. And then you want to return the serve as close as you can to the middle line. What does that do? It avoids any problems with the sidelines. You will never hit a ball wide on a return of serve. You may hit it long, that may happen, but you're never going to hit it wide if that's your aim. And it creates, again, miscommunication or potential for miscommunication or confusion by your opponents, not knowing who's going to handle that ball. The other opponent you have on the court that I want to talk about is the net. Often unforced errors end up right into the net. If you can take the net out of play, you'll improve your game tremendously. Even if you're going to dink a ball, if you dink it high and the other team has to hit it, let them hit it. Let them put it away. Let them beat you. Don't beat yourself by hitting the net. The net's the only shot that you can hit where the opponent cannot make a mistake. Even if you're going to hit the ball long or hit it out, they still have a chance to intercept that ball and put it back into play or miss it, so you have a chance. If you hit the net, there's nothing for your opponent to do. There's no decision to make. There's zero chance of you winning that point if you hit the ball into the net. So the question then is, how do I take the net out of play? The way to take the net out of play is give yourself cushion. Give yourself, instead of trying to aim for right over the net, maybe give yourself a foot cushion, maybe a 2-foot cushion. That's why you hear about the third shot being a high arcing shot that peaks on this side and drops over. The idea being that it drops over high enough over the net so that it won't hit the net. The net basically is out of play. The same thing on volleys and drives and other shots. If you can give yourself a little more cushion rather than trying to skim it over the net, you'll reduce your unforced errors.
Let's look at a couple examples of third shots executed in a tournament I recently played with Marcus Luke. In the first one, you'll see how Marcus allows himself a nice amount of clearance over the net. In the second one, you'll see how I did not give myself enough clearance on the third shot and hit it into the top of the net. Let's look at Marcus' third shot again in slow motion. You see how the arc that he puts on the first shot there, and then he repeats the arc again. You can see the clearance over the net. You can see that the ball clears the net with some margin there. And then we'll see it one more time, how he clears it over the net, taking the net out of play and forcing the other team to play the shot. Let's compare that third shot to the one that I hit, where I gave myself no clearance with my shot. My shot hits the top of the net, and the other team doesn't have to make any decisions in order to win that point. Let's look at how keeping the net out of play can extend the point and allow you to potentially win it later. This is a tournament that Jill and I played in recently. You can see how none of these third shot attempts are effective, but none of them are hitting the net. And then what ends up happening is we end up getting an opportunity here, and then we can hit the kill shot and win the point. The thing to remember is that if you hit the net with your shot, then the point is over no matter what. If you keep the net out of play, then you extend the point and have a chance to win it.
Another detail about the net that might help you reduce unforced errors is in the middle, the net's 34 inches. Towards the sides, it's 36 inches, meaning obviously that it's lower here than it is towards the sides. Another reason to play in the middle, because if you try and hit a shot down the side, might hit the net. Same shot down the middle might clear the net because of the 2-inch clearance difference. Another unforced error concept I want to talk about is the concept of pressing or not respecting the rhythm of the point. Think of a pickleball point as like a dance where there's a step and a counter step and then another step and another step, and then the kill may come eventually, but it may not be there on the third shot or the fourth shot or the sixth shot or the ninth shot. It may take a few shots. Wait until the point develops and develop that point until you have the kill shot that you want in order to execute that shot. Next time you play pickleball, think of the points that you've played in terms of this dance, and think of what points were the best points. More likely than not, they were the ones that you danced the dance, where you moved the other team to the right and then maybe to the left, and then they set it up and then you kill the shot. And then maybe think of the other points, maybe where you smacked the ball into the net, where maybe a dink was a better shot, and where you pressed a little bit, where you did more or pressed a little more than was warranted under the circumstances at that particular moment of the point. Those sorts of errors happen when you press, when you don't simply allow the point to develop. I'll show you some footage in a minute of situations where myself and my wife were playing in a tournament recently, and there were moments during the second game of that tournament match where we pressed, where we basically tried to hit shots that weren't there. I'll show them to you, and you'll see what happened. In other words, the shot that was there was probably a dink situation, maybe a lob situation, not a drive situation, and both of us drove the ball, ended up hitting into the net. Those are unforced errors that can be taken out of the game by hitting the proper shot and by dancing the dance.
In these next two clips, you'll see how first Jill and then I commit unforced errors by pressing in situations where the shot isn't warranted, where perhaps a dink or a lob are the better option.
If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing below. You'll be notified when new videos are posted. Is it okay if I put it over here, the button that they can press to subscribe? What do you think about another video over here? You want another video? You want to put another one? Okay.